You're at the table, your own family's table. Maybe the people who share your face. The conversation rolls along, easy for everyone else. And you're doing the thing you've done your whole life, participating from 1 inch outside. Laughing on cue, fluent in the local language of this room. You've studied it, but speaking it always as a second language. Or it's the office, where everyone else seems to have received a handbook you never got. Or the friend group, where you're loved, genuinely, and still feel like a well-liked exchange student. Or this is the strange one, your own hometown, walking streets you know by body memory, feeling like a ghost, doing an impression of a local. And underneath it, the ache with no address, homesickness. You know that's the closest word. Except when you try to picture the home you're sick for, there's nothing there. Not the childhood house. You were a visitor there too. You just didn't have the word yet. Not any city you've lived in. Not any group that's had you. You are homesick for a place you have never been. The Welsh have a word for this. Hiraeth, a longing for a home that maybe never existed. And the fact that multiple languages needed a word for it should tell you something. You are not the only one at the table feeling 1 inch outside of it. Now, before we go to the old book, catch the assumption hiding inside your ache, because the whole episode turns on it. The assumption is everyone belongs somewhere, and I haven't found my somewhere yet. Or worse, I'm broken in the exact way that makes belonging impossible. Belonging, in this picture, is a place. A room that exists, with your shape cut into it, that you have simply failed to locate. 3,000 years ago, the observers who mapped every human situation looked straight at people like you. And here is the remarkable thing. They did not write a chapter about finding your room. They wrote a chapter about the ones who move between rooms. And instead of pitying them, they gave them a field manual, a dignity, and one line so precise about your exact life that it may take your breath. The line about the person who finally gets everything that belonging is supposed to look like, and whose heart, quote, is not glad. One thing before we open the book. Drop it in the comments right now. One line. Where do you feel most like a visitor? The family table, the office, the hometown, everywhere. Just the place. You'll want it on record for where this is going. Now, the book. Welcome back to the valley. The book. The I Ching. The Book of Changes. Tonight, Chapter 56. It's called Lu, the Wanderer, the Traveler, the Stranger Passing Through, and its image is one of the most beautiful in the book. Fire on the mountain. Hold the two halves of that picture apart for a second, because the ancients are showing you two complete natures. The mountain, it stays. It is staying. Rooted a mile deep, unmoved for 10,000 years. The very grammar of belonging somewhere. And across its face, fire. A grass fire on a mountainside doesn't stay. Can't stay. It burns what's before it and moves on. Always traveling. Never still. At home on the mountain, precisely never. Two natures, one landscape. And the chapter's first mercy is simply this. Both are natures. The fire is not a failed mountain. It is not a mountain with a defect. A mountain that hasn't found its spot. A mountain that should try harder to accumulate roots. It is fire. A different kind of thing, with different physics, whose nature is the moving. Now hear your ache again. Through that image. All these years, you have diagnosed yourself as a defective mountain. Everyone else rooted, you somehow unable, searching range after range for the slope that would finally hold you. The chapter's opening move is to hand back your entire history, reframed in one line. You were never a broken mountain. You were fire, misdiagnosed, and every symptom of failure was actually a property of flame. But the ancients don't stop at consolation. They never do. Fire on a mountainside, also dangerous to itself and everything near it. And a wanderer's life has real hazards the settled never face. So, the chapter becomes what fire needs. Not a cure, but a field manual. 6 lines, and 4 of them are the 4 classic ways wanderers destroy themselves. The first error, the bottom line, the wanderer who grovels. Paraphrased, the wanderer busies himself with trivial things and so draws misfortune. This is the stranger, who tries to purchase belonging with self-abasement. The new person laughing hardest at jokes that aren't funny, agreeing with everything, running errands, shrinking, performing usefulness, becoming the mascot. You've done a version of this. every wanderer has. The text's verdict is stern because the mechanism is cruel. Groveling doesn't buy belonging, it prices you. Rooms accept the mascot and respect them never. And the wanderer ends up more outside than before, now with an audience. The second error, the third line, the wanderer who forgets whose house it is. The line opens with this image. The wanderer's inn burns down. He loses the loyalty of those with him. This is the opposite overcorrection. The stranger who, briefly welcomed, starts rearranging the furniture, presuming, dominating, acting the owner in a room that was lending itself. The welcome combusts. Wanderers oscillate between these first two errors their whole lives, too small, then too large, because both are attempts to not be a wanderer, and the room can always smell it. Then, the fourth line, your line, paraphrased, close to the original, because it deserves it. The wanderer rests in a shelter. He obtains property and an axe. But my heart is not glad. Look at what this figure has. Shelter, resources, tools. A life equipped to continue. Every external checkbox of belonging. The house, the job, the established life. And then, that clause the ancients dropped like a stone in still water. In the first person, the only line in the chapter that suddenly speaks as I. My heart is not glad. 3,000 years ago, someone knew that a wanderer can assemble a perfect replica of belonging, every plank of it, and sit inside it, at their own warm table, 1 inch outside. If you have ever built the whole life and still felt like its visitor, that line was written in your voice. And notice what the text does not say. It does not say the shelter was a mistake. It says the shelter was never going to be the gladness. Because for fire, gladness was never going to be architectural. The sixth line completes the map. The wanderer who forgets he is one. The bird's nest burns, he laughs first, then weeps. Careless and overconfident, mistaking temporary safety for invulnerability. The traveler loses even the cow through sheer inattention, and the line ends in misfortune. The wanderer's discipline runs the whole road. Never grovel, never presume, never mistake the replica for the gladness. Never forget your nature. So if belonging isn't architectural, if no shelter, no property, no axe produces the gladness, what does the chapter actually give the wanderer to hold? 2 things. And together, they are the answer your ache has been circling your whole life. First, the image line. The wanderer's true luggage. Every chapter's image tells the wise person what to carry through that weather. And this one speaks literally about being clear-minded and cautious in administering punishment, and not letting imprisonment drag on. Read as a discipline of conduct on the road, it becomes strange luggage for a traveler. Clarity, fairness, cleanness of dealing. Until you see what the ancients saw. The settled person is held together from outside, by the village that knows them, the reputation that precedes them, the walls. Strip all that away, as the road strips it. And what remains to hold a person together? Only conduct. The wanderer's integrity isn't a nicety. It is their entire architecture. The one possession no border confiscates, no fire burns, no departure leaves behind. The text gives us the foundation for a modern reading. The only real estate a fire can own is how you are, is where you live. A wanderer with clean, clear, generous conduct is never actually homeless. They carry the homeland in the way they treat the next room they pass through. Second, the fifth line, how strangers are received. The one hopeful line. He shoots a pheasant, loses 1 arrow, and in the end, receives praise and position. The wanderer who is welcomed, who does connect. And look at how. Not by groveling, not by presuming, not by impersonating a native. There is one clean, proportionate risk. Something real is offered, something small may be lost, and the true skill is seen. This is our practical reading of the 1 arrow, the modest, genuine offering of what the wanderer actually is and actually does, given cleanly into the new place, belonging not begged, not seized, but quietly earned in the wanderer's own currency. You have felt this the few times it happened. The rooms that finally held you a while were never the ones you performed for. They were the ones where you, without strategy, simply did your true thing well, and someone saw it, which leaves only the ache itself, the homesickness with no address. If the fire's home is its conduct, if belonging was never a room, then what have you been longing for all these years? so specifically that you can almost smell it. Here is what the chapter, read all the way down, suggests. And it lands gently. You are not homesick for a place. Check the evidence. No place you've ever stood has been it, and the longing predates every address you've had. What the ache actually points at, all along, has been a state. The state the fourth line's wanderer was missing inside his perfect shelter. And the fifth line's wanderer briefly touched, you, unperformed. At home in your own conduct, offering your one true arrow, 1 inch inside your own life for once. The homesickness was never for a room your shape was cut into. It was for the version of the table where you didn't have to translate. And that version was never geographic. It travels with you, exactly as available tonight, at whatever table, as it would be anywhere on earth. It opens the moment the performing stops. The place that doesn't exist as a place. It exists as a way of sitting in the chair you're already in. And one more thing, because the fire on the mountainside is never alone up there. Wanderers recognize each other. You know this. You felt the instant wordless, oh, you too, across a crowded room. The two exchange students finding each other in 30 seconds flat. The deepest belonging available to fire is not with mountains, however kind. It's with other fire, which is, not incidentally, what this valley is. A mountainside at 2 a.m., flickering with people who are all 1 inch outside their own tables. Look at the comments section under this video. That's not an audience. That's a campfire. Fire on the mountain. A nature, not a defect. The 4 errors of the road. Groveling, presuming, mistaking the replica, forgetting the flame. My heart is not glad. The oldest description of your exact life. Conduct as the portable homeland. 1 true arrow. And a homesickness that was never for a place. Next time, a question with real teeth. Why do bad things happen to you when you did nothing wrong? The ancients wrote a chapter about undeserved misfortune. Thunder under heaven. And it refuses every comfortable answer. Not karma, not lessons, not deserving. What it says instead is harder and stranger, including the one thing it warns you must never let the injustice do to you. Bring your unfairest wound. And if this campfire made you feel 1 inch less outside, subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll know when the next fire is lit. But before you go, the ritual. Your visitor place is already in the scroll. You set it down at the top before you knew what the chapter would make of it. So, tonight, the ritual is the campfire question. Have you ever met another wanderer and felt instantly at home? The 30-second, oh, you too? Find your comment and tell that story under it. Then, read the others. And when you find a fellow fire down in that scroll, you know the custom by now. Lower a bucket. Or tonight, call it what it is up on this mountainside. Pass the flame.